Hello, welcome back to our bookshop in Tring. I'm Ben Morehouse. So we've got another author interview now, and we're talking a crime thriller. And who better to write a bit of crime thriller than a serving officer in the CID? And it's a debut novel. Vicki Bradley has written a book called Before I Say I Do, which obviously has an opening scene of a wedding, and but I'll leave you with that thought. She's interviewed by Lucy Howard.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you, Vicky. Welcome to our bookshop and welcome to Tring. As Ben said, you're here today to talk to us about your debut novel, Before I Say I Do, which I have a copy of here. Obviously, I've read it and I loved it. It's fantastic. And I see a lot of people are in agreement with me because despite the fact you only released it 2 weeks ago, you've already made Heat's recommended reading in last week's issue. You had a great review from The Sun on Sunday last weekend. Wow, what a start. So tell us, since the launch 2 weeks ago, what's life been like for you? I can imagine it's been a bit of a whirlwind.
Yeah, it has actually been a lot more busy and more of a whirlwind than I thought it would, because obviously the pandemic is going on, unfortunately. So I thought everything would be quite subdued, but it's actually been really busy and in a way like a normal book launch, except everything's been virtual instead of in person. But it's really nice to be able to do panels like this, and I had a virtual book launch, which was a real surprise because my sister arranged it and I had no idea. So I saw all my friends and family when I didn't think I'd get to, and we all raised a little glass. So yeah, it's been surprisingly how I imagined, but in a virtual sphere. A lot of fun.
And so tell us a bit about you. You have a background that's quite significant to this book, don't you?
Yes, I suppose I have really. I've been in the police for 14 years now. So I started off in Thames Valley as a blue light response driver, and then I came to London. And I ended up in Southwark CID, which you might find in the book, perhaps. It's quite funny. A lot of my colleagues are eagerly reading it now, and they keep saying, "Is this me? Is that me?"
I bet.
So yeah, and the police is a really good place to learn about life, to challenge yourself, and also to find stories, really, because you get the extremes of the human experience, the human condition. You get people, at the worst times of their life, and the police trying their best to help them. And, I found it a really worthwhile career and really inspiring and just amazing.
And it's nice to bring that out in your books then as well.
Yeah. And I think in a way, writing has probably become a little bit of therapy for me. I think all police officers, it's quite a hard job in a lot of ways. And you end up with a lot of things in your head. So it's quite nice. I recommend writing for everybody to just sit down and just write. It's really, really good. And it helps you to make sense of the world in a way.
Yeah. And so the book, the plot, it's a crime thriller. So we need to be a little bit careful here. We don't give away any spoilers. But I loved how it was told from different viewpoints as the book progressed. Can you tell us a bit more about the plot and what a reader could expect from the book?
Yeah, it's quite difficult because it is crime fiction, so you have to be very careful. But I really like psychological thrillers, so when I started writing it, that's what I thought it was going to be. But obviously the police came marching along, and it became half psychological thriller and half police procedural. So it's a mix of two genres, really. So you get the bride, Julia Talbot, whose groom goes missing on her wedding day, and her life starts to fall apart, and she's trying to work out what's happened as her whole world starts unraveling. And then you have Alana Loxton, the female DC, who is investigating her, Julia Talbot's groom going missing. So she's looking at it from a police perspective. So you get the two perspectives of, the family member who's lost someone and the police investigating it. And I quite enjoyed showing both sides, because in a way, in the police, I got to see both sides because I was a family liaison officer. So I'd be with the family, but then I'd also do the investigating. So I think that's how the book happened. And just to make it more complicated, I added in a past narration as well.
I love that.
So yeah, so it's got quite a lot going on in a way, but I think, you know, it just enriches the book. And
I really enjoyed how it went back and forth, and it was clever. It was really cleverly done.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing it, and it was a lot of fun. And I think writing from two female protagonists, you can parallel them, but also show differences, and it was a lot of fun. I often thought, what does Julia think of Loxton, and vice versa.
So, as we've touched upon with your background in the police, clearly that has had an impact on your writing. But the twists and turns in the book, they're fantastic. I mean, it kept me guessing right up until the end. And there's that isn't from a policing background. So where did your inspiration for the plot come from? Has that always been there? Have you been thinking of this for years, or how did that come about?
I started writing a book in 2015 as part of a master's. So I did an MA in novel writing, and I got the idea for the premise, the groom going missing, because I was getting married at the time. So I was planning my wedding, and as you know, Lucy, as a police officer, you're always thinking, what's the worst thing which could happen right now? So I thought, oh, if my husband Mike doesn't turn up, that would be the worst thing. So that's where the premise came from, and then I had a strong sense of the ending and who and what and how. So then you write the story, and then we call it reverse engineering. Erin Kelly does, who's a great crime writer. You go back and you start adding in extra little red herrings and twists and developing subplots. So it's kind of, as you're writing the book, it organically happens, and you think, oh, that's good, I'm going to add more of that. And a lot of the time you're going, that doesn't work now, so you have to cut it all out.
So when you start, did you know how it was going to end?
Yes, yeah. I always know the beginning and the end, and then I have no idea how I'm going to get there. and then you start writing characters, and they start taking over in a weird way. And you think, well, you were just a minor character, like Alana Loxton. She was a very minor character, the DC, at the beginning.
Oh, see, that's interesting, because yeah, she's a key character, I would have said.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she certainly decided she was. Because in the Masters, you're constantly getting people peer reviewing it and having a look. And everybody kept saying, oh, I'd like to see more of DC Loxton. And I was like, really? Because to us, you know, it's our normal life, isn't it? It was, the police. Yeah. It's our day job. So to us, it's almost a bit boring. I shouldn't say that, but it's just your life.
Yeah, so, it's your day job. But yeah.
Why would anyone want to read about that? But yeah, so I guess I just finished it in November last year. So it is constantly been worked on. And I think that's how you get the twists and turns in, and you try and make them as strong as possible. You keep reviewing it and keep going over it.
And is there any parts, did anything dramatically veer off? So had you, the published version that now exists, is it dramatically different in any way to maybe what you started with? Is there a massive plot change, or has it by and large followed where you thought it would go?
It's by and large stayed the same, pretty much, yeah. But just extra layers added on top, just to give it a bit more complexity, I think. So
characters. There, as we've said, there are a few key characters in the book, and I think there's also a few key relationship dynamics explored as well, aren't there? Who's your favourite character or characters? And can you tell us a little bit more about them?
Yeah. Favourites. It's hard because they're all your children. I think definitely Alana Loxton. I really enjoyed writing her because it was kind of easy, because she's based on a few officers and a bit of me's in her. So it was a lot of fun writing Alana and then putting her through the mill and seeing how she responded. I did enjoy Julia Talbot, and she was quite difficult to write because there's a lot going on there, and it's in the first person, so you're really in her head. But in a way, because it's a crime thriller, you can't give away too much. You've got to strike that balance. So that was quite a challenge to write, and actually a lot of work went into Julia. And my editor, Bethan Jones from Simon and Schuster, she helped me a lot in the last stages, making sure it worked. It worked really well. Hopefully it does. And I did enjoy the relationship between Alana and the male DC, Kowalski, Dominic Kowalski. That kind of surprised me. That kind of came out of nowhere. Like, they just sort of muscled in on the story. And I really enjoyed writing them playing off each other and their friendship developing. So it was a lot of fun writing them too.
So how do you create, right back at the start, how do you create a character? What's the process you go through?
Well, you start with the premise and an individual like Julia Talbot, and you think, right, she just was a bride, and it was just a situation, and then you start writing the story. And there's a lot of chapters and scenes in the book which have been taken out, but they were really helpful for me at the time because I got to learn about Julia and how she would react in certain situations. So I think a lot of character building goes on behind the scenes, and you never actually see it in the end book. So yeah, and it's kind of heartbreaking when you have to take certain scenes out because you might have spent a long time on them and really enjoyed them and think, oh, it's a really good scene, but it doesn't work for the plot, and it's just extra fluff that can go. So that gets quite hard. But those scenes are really key for the writer because that's where you learn about the character. And hand on heart, there is a little bit of real people put into the characters, obviously. Like, it's people.
I was going to ask you that because I always wonder when I read, like, are they based on real people, or?
I think they probably always are, but we pretend they're not.
No,
Yeah. But it's a mix of people, though. That's the nice thing. So it'll be a little bit of that person and a little bit of that person and a bit of yourself as well, like the extreme versions of yourself. You know, all the dark things in your head or the, anxieties you have, and you just exaggerate them and build on them. And it's quite fun. I wanted to be an actress when I was younger, but I have terrible stage fright, so yeah. So it didn't really work out. But when I'm writing my scenes, I will play both parts. So I'll be playing Loxton, and then I'll almost turn and start playing Kowalski. So you kind of
quite helpful for the writing process then.
Yeah, and if say there were a fight scene, you sort of play, and as a police officer, you kind of play it in your head and you act it out, but there's no one watching, and you can retake it as many times as you like.
So do you have like boards up in your writing room with the character in the middle, almost like storyboarding?
It's all on the computer, so I do a character dossier for each character. So I find that really helpful. So Julia Talbot has her own 20-page Word document where you write her, at the beginning, you write what she looks like, you write her background. A lot of it will never go in the book. But if you don't do it, you don't get a feel for who she is, and it just won't come across on the page. So you write about her school, whether she was bullied or whether she had, was a popular person. But none of that you see in the book really, except hopefully it's not a two-dimensional character. So, and also if you're writing a series, it helps to have a character dossier.
Yeah.
Minor characters.
Little tiny facts you need to remember so that people don't point out the kind of inaccuracies as they're going through the books. And
even silly things like people's ages. Yeah. You have to be really, really careful that you keep. I have Excel spreadsheets everywhere now. Where people are at.
So we've chatted about the book, but let's chat a bit about you now. You obviously write crime and thrillers, but what do you enjoy reading? So who's your favourite crime writer, and what writers do you think have influenced you?
I really like Tana French, actually. She's a really good crime writer, and they made her her series into the Dublin Murders on BBC. I haven't actually watched it because I love the book so much, so I'm a bit scared to watch it in case, you know, it's not how I imagined it. But she's almost like a literary writer, you know, it's like literary books in a way, because the description is so stunning and the atmosphere is so incredible and the suspense she creates, and it's really quite eerie, and often there'll be a past narration and a present, but the past is affecting the present. So she's a really good writer that I would recommend, even if you don't like crime, because she really is, you know, quite outstanding. And I think it's good to read authors who you admire like that, because you try and learn how they do it.
Do you read differently now? Do you find when you're reading a book that you're reading it with a different head on, or can you still go back into using it and reading it just purely as the reader?
I think I read for pleasure still, but I have got a highlighter always in my hand. If I think, oh my God, how did they do that? Then I get my little highlighter out. And I used to be someone who a book was sacred and you didn't mark it, you didn't turn in the corners.
Clear the page, yeah.
But now, unfortunately, I'm now highlighting and putting little thumb marks in. So, yeah.
And only in crime, or do you do that with other books?
I do it with other books as well, because I think it's really important to read out of genre, because otherwise, you know, you can get quite narrow. And also, I read all the We Cannot See by Anthony Dewar, and he's an amazing book, but he's so good at description, and you can learn a lot, and then you can put it into crime genre, and it feels a bit different. Like, it makes it feel a bit more unique and fresh.
Oh, I see, that's interesting.
Yeah, so
is that I was going to ask you actually what you're reading now. Is that what you're reading, or?
Oh no, I read that about 6 months ago, but it's one of those books where, you know, I bought another copy, so it's mint. So I don't want to. There's a messed up version and the mint version.
But I feel like I have to ask, what are you reading now?
I'm reading Chris McGeorge's book. He's a crime writer, and it's his second book, and it's called Now You See Me. And it's a lock room murder mystery, but set in contemporary times. So it's the premise is there's 6 people on a canal boat, and they go into this very long tunnel where there's no way out. And when the boat comes out the other side, there's only one person on the boat.
Oh right.
And it's these impossible situations, which Agatha Christie was so good at, and he has kind of put it in the contemporary world. So it's got a lot of suspense and atmosphere, and it's a slow burner, and you're constantly thinking, I have to know what on earth happened. So I'm really enjoying that at the moment. It's very good.
So I guess you're sort of constantly trying to develop yourself through reading others.
Yeah, you never stop learning, I think. You could spend a lifetime writing and never stop learning.
So on behalf of any aspiring writers out there that might be watching this now, can I ask a few questions about how you write yourself? Are you someone, do you plan the story out? We were talking about how you'd found a beginning and an end, but do you have a set idea, or do you just sort of sit and let the ideas come to you, almost like the story find you?
I think I'm very much a bit of a mix, really, but more of a planner. More, I'd say, like, I have the beginning and the end, a strong sense, and then the middle bit is like a strange, murky, foggy landscape. And then I start writing, and then I have this Excel spreadsheet. It's probably from the police, Lucy, so you'll know. It's a massive spreadsheet with lots of different there's chapters all down one side, red herrings, each character, what they're doing, where they're at. So I'd say definitely a planner. And also I try and there's a 3-act structure that we try and get into a book to make it flow and to make it, give it a good rhythm for the reader, so it's a page turner and they want to know more.
Yeah.
So I'd say mostly planner, mostly.
And so you create this book and you write it and it's finished and it's sat on your computer, it's your pride and joy. But how does it get from there to, you know, this finished article on the bookshelves and on Amazon? I mean, what can you talk me through your publishing journey? How does it go from there to here?
Yeah, it's this I think this was quite quick for it in a way, because you might be shocked, but I started writing in 2015, so it's out in 2020. So that's 5 years. But to me, I think that's quite quick. I'm going to have to get quicker, I think. But, what you've got to do is, I entered it into competitions. Once I'd got it to the best standard that I felt it could be, and you just have to put it out there, send it to agents, enter it in competitions, and just don't give up until you get somewhere with it, because it's very easy for people to get disheartened with a few rejections, because it's something you love and you put your heart into it. And I got lucky. I won the Right Here Right Now competition that Simon and Schuster and the Bradford Literary Festival were running, and that the prize was representation by Darley Anderson and a publishing deal with Simon and Schuster. So in a lot of ways, I skipped the hard bit on this book. So I was lucky. And then the work begins, because I remember sending it to my editor from Simon and Schuster thinking, well, that's done. That's me finished. I can kick back.
And then it comes back.
And then it comes back. And I actually have to admit, I cried the first time I looked at the edits, because I realised it's not done. In fact, I've not really begun. So yeah, they put you through the mill, but you get a much stronger book for it, and you learn so much, especially with the first book.
And how much say did you have over things like the cover and the marketing around it?
With the cover, they do send you the cover, and they get your views on it, and I loved it. So
it very much feel like your baby still.
Yes, yeah, it's very much, yeah. But I mean, they've got a whole design team who are professionals. So you'd be silly if you thought you could draw one yourself, you know. So they'll produce the cover and send it to you, and then you get to sign it off.
And at your launch, you had a similar flower, didn't you? Yeah.
Yes, my sister. I've got a twin sister who's very supportive and is the first person who reads my books, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, she's my ideal reader. Stephen King would say there's an ideal reader, and she's the person I'm thinking, oh, this better be good, or she isn't going to be happy.
High standards.
She's got very high standards in me. Yeah, she it's called an Endura rose that she got from America, sent over, and they went crazy on picking the colour. She sent them the book cover, and the company tried to match it, and apparently it's selective yellow.
And so to anyone who is you in 2015, just starting out, what advice would you give them if they were watching you now?
I would say certainly don't give up and keep writing, because although it sounds like an impossible dream, people are doing it all the time, and more books are getting published than ever before. So just keep working at it, and join a writing group. Or I was lucky, I got to do a master's, but not everyone's got the time to do a master's and work. You know, it's quite a challenge. So not everyone can do that. You've got other commitments like children, or other commitments. So join a writers group is what I would say, because it's so important to get other people reading your work and early input. And you also will review other people's work, and that's where you build your editing skills, because it's much easier to edit someone else's work than it is your own. Yeah. So you will develop those skills of seeing where the pace isn't right in another person's work, or the characters aren't quite jumping off the page. Yeah. And then when you look at your own work, you'll have a much stronger editor mindset. So it really helps you. And also, if your writing group is telling you, we don't really like this, then you get an idea. If they're all saying it, you probably have to change it. So I would recommend.
Yeah, you just get very emotionally attached, don't you? And so having someone independent saying to you, this character's not a go, or this plot doesn't work, it's probably harder for you to say goodbye to it than somebody reading it independently.
Oh yeah, yes, definitely, yeah. And you need a lot of voices telling you over and over again, I'm still not happy with that bit. And eventually you'll go, oh, okay, I need to change it. Because you put a lot of hours in, and you know, you might think, oh, that's a clever bit of prose, I don't want to take that out.
Yeah.
But if it's not working for the story, then it's got to go.
And so lastly, before we go, what comes next for you, for your characters? Because, I mean, without giving too much away, I've certainly felt like I saw avenues that would allow more to follow for certainly some of the characters. So what are your plans?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, without giving away spoilers, but I will a little bit. I have just sent my second book to my editor and agent, and I'm hoping they like it. Yeah, it's quite nervous. Yeah, waiting to hear back. But I have a master's, a writer's group from my master's, and they've read the work, and my sister's read it, so that is quite reassuring. That's why it's good to have a writer's group, because they're the first people who look at it. So yeah, so the second book's in and just waiting to hear, but it is a sequel to Before I Say I Do.
Oh, so they are linked.
Yeah, they are linked. So I have, without too much of a spoiler, I have carried on with some of the police characters, and I'm hoping to make a series out of them where they'll continue to go on, you know, more investigations, and maybe develop them and see what happens to them and in their personal lives. So it's very much a follow-on from Before I Say I Do.
Perfect. Well, Vicki, thank you so much for your time. I've loved chatting to you, and as I said, I love the book, and I'm sure many more out there are currently loving it and are going to love it when they pick it up and read it. Good luck with the next one. Please keep us posted, and please come in and see us in person, and yeah, keep us up to date with it all.
Yeah, I'll definitely come and check out Tring Festival. You know, I've heard great things about it, so I'll have to get over to Tring soon, once we can, of course.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much for your time.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you to Vicki Bradley. That was wonderful. You're welcome anytime, and thank you to Lucy as well for her for interviewing. Before I Say I Do is available in the bookshop, 01442 827 653. All purchase blurbs in the information below the video. Thank you once again for joining us, and we'll see you again for our next author interview.